Well, hey, welcome back to Hobbies with Jose. Today we are finally taking a look at Studio Series 81 Wheeljack, and I think it's safe to say that he is the pinnacle of modern G1 design, right? Nothing bad's gonna happen to him. Okay, let's take a look. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So good to have you back. Now, before we get into the figure proper, of course, we're going to take a quick look at the box. I think I'm going to be spending less and less time talking about these boxes because they're so similar. I'll just focus real quick on this fantastic render that we have of Wheeljack. That's a nice little pose that he's in, ready to bust some Decepticons, or maybe hammer out some dents on Grimlock. Who can tell, really? But overall, it looks great, and I'm glad we get to see such a nice shot of him. And of course, on the side, we get a much fuller shot of him. We see more detail on the legs and a bit of the feet. What does strike me as interesting, though, is the part that becomes the windshield for the vehicle doesn't seem to be clear at all. Maybe that'll inform the repaint, huh? Interesting. And on the back, we get some renders of the figure itself in both body and vehicle mode, and shows you how you can display the backdrop. But most importantly, look at how bright that white plastic look. Whoa, what the heck is this? Okay, so what they went with is a bit more of a creamy off-white colored plastic, which isn't terrible, but I do prefer the all-white look. Still though, this design is just absolutely phenomenal. There's just no mistaking on who this guy is. And there are some design elements that come straight from the G1 Lancia vehicle as well. I do love how the windshield has just been shoved all the way to the front of the vehicle now, but it still retains its sleek aerodynamic body. There are a few line markings on the sides and the front that do add a bit of character to this mold. And as much as I do like the overall look of the spoiler, I don't think I'm a big fan of the incomplete look, but I can certainly forgive it since it is a Cybertronian vehicle. And it is designed that way to accommodate the weapon pegging on top. And even though it pegs in on its side, I very much do appreciate how it keeps the barrel nice and center. Being that it's a Cybertronian vehicle, I am overall okay with this look, but I prefer without it. The wheels do seem very similarly designed to Studio Series Cliff Jumper too, although here they're molded in a translucent blue plastic, which I kinda dig that look. The front bumper also does the exact same thing as Studio Series Cliff Jumper, where it's entirely clear plastic, and that's to give it more of a headlight look, although I'm not sure how successful it is at that. Light piping doesn't really come through from the bottom, so it looks rather dark. And not a whole lot going on in the back of the vehicle other than just the elbow joints for the arms and bits of the wings sticking out the back. Again, it kind of gets away with this because it's a Cybertronian vehicle, and I just see this has robotic bits showing up in the back. But overall, this is a stellar vehicle that came from a bot that A, we only saw for a few seconds, and B, we never actually saw him transform. So hats off to the designers for pulling this off. But just as good as a vehicle that we get from this figure, we get an awesome bot mode too. This interpretation of Wheeljack is so awesome, so nearly perfect, that it still boggles my mind that we got it. I always did kind of think it was one of the more goofier looking of the G1 bots with those head fins on the sides that lit up when he talked, but this just knocks the design out of the park. I absolutely love it, and it doesn't overly complicate the look of Wheeljack. There is still a lot of molded details to look at around his helmet, around his forearms, but nothing takes away from the overall look of who Wheeljack is. He has those iconic fins on his head. He has that windshield on his chest. For crying out loud, he has his wings. They gave him his wings, fam! Yeah, his glorious wings are there, and due to the transformation, they're attached to the back of the shoulders, but they don't look out of place, they don't look super tiny, they just look good. Now there is some vehicle cable underneath the arms, which you can actually say is an homage to the G1 toy, and even the Masterpiece figure too. Thankfully though, it just pops right off if you want a cleaner look. Now I think that does look a heck of a lot better, but one thing it brings into focus is just how narrow the arms are from the sides. That's mainly due to the size constraint of how the arms fit into vehicle mode. Still though, not a deal breaker whatsoever. One thing that surprises me though is just how little paint there seems to be on the figure. We do have the color highlights on the chest and legs, and the silver and chrome blue on the head, and they also had to pick out the feet in the off-white color to match the body since they're entirely made of clear blue plastic. And yet the small amount of paint that we get gets the job done. Although of course you can't beat a full paint job, right? I mean, that's why we're here, right? Still though, if you never plan on repainting this figure, he looks phenomenal as is. And of course Jackie does come with the aforementioned weapon, which is excellently molded. There are tons of details on this thing. And better yet, there is no hollowness to it too. Very nicely done. But as awesome as the weapon looks, there's just no way to attach it to the shoulder unless you buy a third-party kit. And this simplistically designed piece attaches right to the peg hole on his back, which allows the weapon to be attached to it, and voila! An even better wheeljack. Ooh, I do love me that look. I do wish, however, that the third-party piece had some articulation to allow upward movement of the weapon. Sadly, it doesn't. No reason why we can't fix that though, right? Still, it's a fantastic look with such a simple solution. And I do love how the rear wheels fold into the chest and you can see them visibly in the back. It's just a very nice design aesthetic, and it doesn't take away from the bot mode whatsoever. Even how they look in the back of the legs is a much improvement over Studio Series Cliffjumper. Overall, comparatively, they look much tidier and cleaner. Speaking of the legs though, we do have a problem. You know what it is. Yeah, these are about the weakest legs I have seen on any figure. But thankfully they are on ball joints and they are relatively easy to fix. Thankfully I picked up a bottle of the Kiki joint solution, so I'll be applying some after the repaint. I think that should hopefully do the trick. But the other joints are great, and the head is on a ball joint, can do a full 360, plus also up and down and some side to side as well. Arms can fold out almost a full 90 and also turn 360. We have upper bicep swivel. Thanks to transformation, we have double jointed elbows, although they do look a bit disconnected when bending. There's a partial waist rotation that's blocked only by some kibble and hips, but I do think it's more than enough. Upper thigh rotation. No splits on this guy, they only move out about 45 degrees, but can kick forward a ton and back a fair amount too. 90 at the knees, feet are on a ball joint so can move forward and back, and a little bit of an ankle tilt. And of course, lastly, the wings can rotate independently of the shoulders. But those are my thoughts on Studio Series 81 Wheeljack. A fantastically well realized design on film, and just a stellar execution for the figure that has both a great bot and vehicle mode. You know, Hasbro really outdid themselves with this figure, and it's gotta be such a good feeling that they achieved such a near perfect version of this character that there's no reason to go back to the drawing board and redesign.